Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for November 4th, 2025. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
And my co-host here, Frankie, is joining us as well. Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life that you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we are streaming the webcast live on Facebook. So you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's Weekly Tittle, which was called Looking for a Hero. The assignment was to consider whether hiring a service provider might be the best solution to a challenge that you're facing. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook. Who thought about calling in the cavalry this week? Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer Persephone, aka Kit, shared her tittle report in a comment on last week's video. Persephone writes, last week, spouse hired a professional with a stump grinder to declutter the remains of a crooked hazelnut shrub from our flower bed. We'd spent over a year trying to remove it ourselves via various methods, to no avail. After 30 minutes and about $200, the pro had it gone. What a relief. The giant spider nursery is gone, and we can transplant a cute little variegated privet in that area.
Isn't that wonderful? There you go. Letting the pros handle it is totally worth it. Sure, you can do it eventually, but the pros will always be faster at it. They have the equipment, they have the team, they have the fastest way to get it done. It's worth it to save yourself so much hassle if you can allocate the funds for the professional help. So I'm super glad you got that chore completed and you can move forward and decorate, your front yard how you want. So that was a great result. And isn't it amazing that you've spent a year trying to do it and they got it done in 30 minutes? Like that's a perfect example of endless effort to no avail versus 30 minutes and it's off the list. It's complete. So that one's a pretty extreme example of you can benefit from spending the money and letting somebody else do it. It's not always quite that dramatic a shift, but that's pretty awesome. I'm super excited for you.
Okay, Jacqueline says, I made progress on sorting my digital clutter, emails, and photos.
Mm,
Unsubscribing really helps reduce the incoming, meaning even less sorting later.
right?
Did some work in the garden to get everything ready for winter. We had a dead tree fall. Oops, sorry, it rolled away from me. We had a dead tree fall in the yard, so that added some unexpected work to chainsaw it into manageable pieces.
Mm.
I also got started on a sewing project slash Christmas gift using the fabrics I got from my friend's house when I helped her out a few weeks ago.
Oh, awesome. So that's you starting to use the stuff that she sent your way. That's great.
Excellent.
Cool. Can't wait to see what you get done.
Okay, let's get straight into this week's content because we have a lot prepared and we probably won't get through it all.
Right?
Um, we went to our mailbag to unanswered questions and short topic suggestions this week. Um, what did we do differently at times in our lives when we were less cluttered? What's good advice for staying organized and decluttered while traveling?
Mm.
And does it still count as a capsule wardrobe if you just happen to wear only a small number of items? Today, we're going to reflect on what we can learn from our less cluttered past and take up other short topics suggested by our audience. So, the first question we asked was, during what period of your adult life was your home the least cluttered? Can you identify anything you did differently then versus now that helped keep the space tidy? Thank you to audience member Gabriella for suggesting this question and a focus on actions versus circumstances. She writes, my actions can empower me, whereas if I blame my clutter on circumstances, it gives me an excuse to remain stuck. So we also ask the question, to what extent do you agree or disagree with Gabriella's statement? The Mags answered, the best uncluttered period was the time before kids. We heard that a lot.
right?
Once they came, everyone gave gifts at all times of the year and more at Christmas. The stuff accumulated faster after they came. Then, once they went to school, the art projects and daily information came in like a fire hose.
Kids can definitely escalate the clutter accumulation, don't they? You go from two people to three or four or five people in the house. And kids can't shop when they're young, but their grandparents can. And so kids have personal shoppers to start their collections. Then teachers fill in at school. It's a whole system of gathering things and a lot of work to maintain it all. That is just the definition of kids. Like they just create it, they multiply the number of people in the house that are collecting things, that are owning things, that are receiving things, and it just escalates, the accumulation very rapidly. That is the nature of kids. Sorry. Managing that becomes that's why it becomes so much more imminently necessary to deal with it because you have increased the accumulation factor by a multiplier of three or four or five, and so it makes it really imminent to come up with systems to manage it.
Um, I thought this question was really interesting, and we did not get, we the obvious answer is, when I was young and didn't have any money and didn't own a lot of stuff, it was easy to be organized, but not that many people actually answered that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, right.
Denise says, I honestly can't think of a time when my home was less cluttered. I have always lived in small apartments with limited closets and storage space. My home now is 1,167 square feet, and it seems luxurious in
Hmm.
comparison.
Hmm.
However, it's still cluttered. Why? I finally came to the realization that no matter how much room I have, I will fill it. Light bulb. It's my thinking and not the space. So this year, I've been seriously getting rid of loads of things. The more I get rid of, the easier it gets. I'm in my late 70s, and by the time I die, I don't want any clutter. I totally agree with the statement.
That sounds like you had a true light bulb moment there. You tend to fill the available space with things. Like I think everybody, when you have space, you feel like you can stretch out and oh, I can spread out more. And it's like, yeah, yeah, you create more, you have more space in which to add things without processing or dealing with it in a timely manner. It just gives you more room to flex. So changing your thinking now lets you live in a clearer space, and that's really fabulous. Like that is certainly where you want to try to get to. It isn't that I need more space, it's that I need to think about this differently and decide what I actually want to live with and whether I have to make space for it in my house or not. There
Um,
you go.
Kara says, I agree with the statement. Any action I take to reduce clutter motivates me and empowers me. I feel energized, and the resulting feeling of airiness makes me feel wonderful. The statement also gives me pause to reflect on things I haven't decluttered and why. I do see that I've used blame to escape action. Better to ditch that victim mentality and get on with it. Thanks, Gabriella.
Go, Kara. It sounds like you've seen a new way to evaluate what you're keeping with more focused intention. We've all avoided things that look like they'll be hard or painful or baffling. And you realize that you feel energized and wonderful when you reduce the clutter and you're willing to face the hard thing to get the resulting feeling on the back end. So, congratulations. A lot of times people don't get that extra piece of if I'm avoiding decluttering it, um, am I in the short term I'm avoiding that negative feeling, but I'm never getting to the long term effect of now it's decluttered and I feel relief, I feel lighter, I feel energized, I feel better. And so she's recognizing that yes, we can say it's too hard, it's too much to face, I need to avoid it, but we won't get the final reward after that. It keeps us far away from accomplishing a place where we feel comfortable and at ease. And so good for you. You figured it out and you're going about it. And I'm proud of you.
Okay, Anya took the counterpoint.
Mm.
She says, my home is least cluttered now, although there were times when I had less room and consequently less stuff. A lot of clutter had been because of working from home and having a home office as a teacher. That was definitely circumstantial and never an excuse. I had actually not enough time and brain power then. Circumstances do matter as well as actions. I would never phrase a statement like the one above, talking about Gabriella's statement about actions versus circumstances.
Hmm.
Um, I do not think I use excuses mostly, but reflect on what I can do and how my circumstances can be changed by me. Very complicated issue but for me, not a question of blame. That is just how I look at things.
That's just not how I look at things.
Not how, sorry, that is just not how I look at things. Sorry.
I do hear
Yeah.
you, Anya. Thanks for sharing. I like the idea of looking at what you can do and how your circumstances can be changed by you. Even if the circumstances are out of your control that cause this cluttered situation, you can still look at what you can do and what you can change. And that's an important focus. There are times like you're living with your three kids, and there's only so much you can do. But there are things that you can affect, things that you can change, even when circumstances are working against you. And so, or preventing you from doing something. There's still always something that you can do. And so Anya's point is if I can't change it, there's no point in focusing over there. Let's focus on what I can change. Let's focus on what can be different. Let's focus on something I can actually be in action around instead of the part that I can't do anything about. And that way she still gets to have movement and she still gets to feel like she is in control of some part of it, and it allows her to be in motion a little bit even when she feels like the circumstances prevent a certain amount of movement. So good job. I think it's a good perspective, and it reminds people, like, even if your circumstances, even if there's some kind of roadblock because of your circumstances, there's still other things that you can do around it. And there you go.
Yeah, and I think Gabriella certainly isn't suggesting blaming anyone else's clutter on their circumstances. She was, kind of speaking for herself. My
Right,
actions
right,
can
right.
empower me, whereas if I blame my clutter on circumstances, it gives me an excuse to remain stuck. I think she's talking about, the outlook she has to adopt to be able to
Be in motion.
remain in motion. Yeah.
Hmm.
Kim says, my home has been the least cluttered when I have had sufficient or surplus space. Yeah.
Yes, that's how it works.
I
Yes,
have
that's
lived in
right.
450 square feet up to 2,500 plus square feet. Having ample space makes it possible to have a place for every item. I don't really agree with Gabrielle's statement. I'm a minimalist, but there's a certain base amount of things that I need. If I don't have a drawer in my kitchen, where am I supposed to store my cutlery and kitchen utensils? This has happened to me before.
Right? You're totally right, Kim. Having sufficient space certainly helps you manage your stuff better. When you live in such a small space, like 450 square feet, that's really very small here. You do have to get creative about what and how much you store. It requires creating some very adaptive systems to make it work. Small spaces require some serious creativity and adaptability to make it functional, and that is the nature of living in such a tiny environment. You just have to get seriously adaptive to cope and sort of create some spaces that aren't really there. And the idea of having, you don't have a drawer, so you can't put your silverware somewhere. Like, then you have to create an alternative, and you're manufacturing. If you think of a drawer in a kitchen cabinet, in a kitchen um, shelf, those are all permanent fixtures normally in a house. And if you're renting a space that doesn't have a kitchen drawer, then you're having to create temporary adaptive things. And so it becomes a non-permanent solution. Maybe it's something
Well,
you hang on the wall, maybe it's something you install, you know,
and Kim may
you sit
also
on the
be
counter.
Kim may also be sort of making the point, I mean, I think she's sometimes there will be a circumstance that is going to lead to clutter almost no matter what you do about it. I mean, we've all
Mm-hmm.
lived in a place where there was no place to put away the vacuum, the
Mm-hmm.
vacuum clean. Like
You
if you live
can't
in a
hide it anywhere.
small enough space, there are things that live out in open sight or just have to exist as incompletion clutter.
Right? Yeah, yeah. And you live in a small space and you can't store a regular vacuum cleaner. And so maybe part of the adaptation you would make is that you would buy a smaller, different vacuum cleaner that takes up less space or hangs on the wall or, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You make some adaptations to accommodate the smaller space. Yeah,
Um,
it's hard.
Le Leela says, I am least cluttered now. The older I get, the more stuff gets on my nerves. I'm tired of maintaining and cleaning it all. I agree strongly with the statement about actions empowering me.
Nothing like getting older and more tired as strong motivation to get some stuff gone, right? When I read that the first time, I was like, yes, we get old and irritated more easily. It's less, we got less time for that BS. Like, fine. And so that sort of a postmenopausal, I am over this BS is a perfect filter to get stuff out of the house, right? Your attachment changes because now you're old and irritated instead of young and flexible. So that one made me laugh a lot because I totally relate to that mental process of I just do not, I'm irritated by this. I do not care. Right? I love that one. Thank you, Leela.
Yvonne says, my home was the least cluttered when I first moved in with my fiance. We had no
Mm.
children. I had gotten rid of a bunch of my own things because I didn't want to move them into my new home with him, and we had very little money to spend on non-essentials.
So you merged two households and you pared down as part of that process, and then you were restricted by early life finances. So those are very effective guardrails to keep the clutter volume down. No money means it's harder to accumulate in any kind of volume. You can't buy fast if you don't have the cash, right? So good on you. And we get older, we have more money, and that we don't have any money guardrail falls away.
Right.
And so we get better credit. We can buy things on credit, and you start being able to accumulate beyond your means, and you have a lot more disposable income to spend on stuff. And so as you aged, as you age, you get that protective guardrail of I don't have the cash to deal with it, sort of goes away, right? I totally get that.
Okay, our next survey question was, what lessons could you learn from your former way of managing your space that might help with your current way of dealing with clutter? This was also suggested by Gabriella's question about, when was your home the least cluttered?
Mm-hmm.
The mag says, limit what is given from family members and follow the container method. By sifting through the artwork and school projects on a continuous basis, this will be better than trying to go through it all at once after bins of items were full.
Both of those are really good ideas. Limit what's given from family members. I will tell you that every adult that when you launch your life and go to your first apartment or whatever and move out, they all say, "Here's the 47 pieces of furniture that I don't need, that you need it, don't you?" And here, like they see you as a viable clutter redistribution system, and they will try to give you a whole bunch of stuff. And what I would do is let them deliver it to you. And then if you don't want it, you can donate it from your house. So they can, give it to you in good conscience, and you can bring it in and say, "Oh, I didn't need it, but I gave it to my friend." Like they don't need to know what you did with it. And so
Well, and Mags was also talking about her answer. The first question was about before the best uncluttered period was before kids,
before the kids,
and
right?
how everyone gives gifts. Once the kids came along, there were gifts
Yes, yes,
all year and more at Christmas.
yes. And
And so
so
part of limit
trying to
what
control
yeah,
grandparents, you're
limit what
talking
is given
about.
from family members, yeah, is corralling the grandparents.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's always like, there's always a lot of it's a minefield to try to control the grandparents.
Yeah,
Every parent tries to limit what the grandparents bring the grandkids, and every grandparent actively tries to dodge those limits. Like
right.
they're trying to end around that stuff all the time, and so it is a constant struggle to go, yeah, we don't need 400 things. The one that shocked me, and I will remember this forever. I was working in a family's home, a couple and one small child, and it was the first grandkid. So the grandparents would hand the little kid like 5 Christmas catalogs, one from Target, one from Walmart, one from Toys R Us. Like they would just hand catalogs to the kid and tell the kid, what do you want? And the kid would go and circle things in the catalog and then they would go and buy it all. And that was why I was at their house because they let the kids circle everything that they wanted and then they would receive it all at Christmas. And it was, they were drowning. They were absolutely drowning. And yeah, I'm not sure how long that lasted. The child was young at the time, right? 6 or 7 or something like that. And so once the kids started circling things in the Sharper Image catalog or the Apple Store catalog, I'm not sure it would have kept up. But, when they were little, buying them toys was super easy. And so the grandparents just went completely overboard. And I would have been like, oh, she does not get to have 5 catalogs. And no, she gets to have 2 pages out of a catalog. She doesn't get the whole catalog. Like,
Mhm.
what are you thinking? And so they sort of found themselves, isn't it great that mom and dad want to buy my kids so much stuff? And then it was like, oh, except this is what happens when they do that. We can't see out of the front door because we're drowning in the stuff. So there was definitely a negative impact because of that.
Okay, sorry, I was catching up with some comments. The comments are
Okay.
lively. Let's see. We were at Kara, who
Hmm.
said, "I've hired a professional organizer a few times, and this has helped me immensely each time. There's no way to convey the positive impact this has had. I'm always amazed at the speed and clarity and efficiency a professional organizer brings to the job."
I thank you on behalf of my colleague, whoever they are. Sometimes just having the plan and the focus to make headway for a few hours is really enough to propel you forward. Like teaching a kid to ride a bike by holding on and running alongside and pushing them forward. Then you let go of it and send the rider forward on their own. And you can use an organizer to get you started just like that. They will hold your hand and keep the bike steady and, point you in the right direction. And then they can release you and let you go. And sometimes that's enough. We do our best. Just saying.
Um, Anya says having less space to live in helps with less inventory.
Mm.
This is also part of the container concept. I'm looking forward to a big enough but smaller space.
Your house is really the ultimate container, right? So changing the limits of the space will help you create a container that has lesser limits of what can stay. And using this opportunity of moving, because I know you're aiming to move at this point, and so using this opportunity to filter, don't just bring everything over there if you can help it. And once you get there, figure out what fits and then release what doesn't. If it's a piece of furniture that doesn't work in the new space, if there's too much of something and you can't store it all, then that's a signal that this container has a different shape and size and you need to edit the content so that it fits better into the shape that you've moved into. And that'll be your end result is that you just get over there, set up for how that apartment house is laid out, and release anything that doesn't actually work in the space. I'm doing it here at this house. Like I've brought artwork from the other house. I've been hanging up artwork and I don't have the same number of walls because the middle room is a big open room. And so I'm missing a bunch of walls that I would have had otherwise. And, I can only put so much artwork up. And so some of it is not making the cut and it's going to be released. And you have to adjust to the new container every time.
I like that Anya says too, she's adopted the productive mindset. Having less space to live in helps with less inventory. Some people would look at this, I have this small space and this is why I can't get my clutter under control. And instead, she's turned it into, this is
This
my this
changes my parameter of what I
yeah,
can
this
keep.
is my limitation. And
Hmm.
that's a very good attitude, a very
This
good
is the limit on the
mindset.
inventory that I
Yeah.
can absorb, right?
Okay, Denise says Denise's learning was small tasks done consistently work better than tackling a large and unrealistic project.
That is the organizing version of hiking up a mountain. You can't run straight up at it like it's a 100-yard dash. You have to go slowly. You have to take breaks for water and food and rest. And after a long time, you finally arrive at the summit. Small tasks done consistently is slow and steady wins the race. That has always been true. And it's also the way to, not burn out. If you run at it like it's a 100-yard dash and you put your 100% your full on effort, you're going to burn out of effort way before you burn out of clutter. And so her description of, let me scroll back to it. Small tasks done consistently works better is 100% true. And you will still end up at the end result where you've arranged everything how you want. It's just going to take a little while. And if you have a day where you can put a big effort in and put several hours in and make big headway, great. If you have the resources to hire an organizer to help you get through it faster because you've doubled your labor and you have somebody that's smart and effective and helping you do the decluttering, great. You can move the project along faster. But in general, you do the small tasks and you do them consistently and you eventually end up with in a better place. And that's the best way to stay at it and not run out of steam before you get to the end of the pile.
Okay, let's go to Anita. Anita says, I've always had clutter, even back at home with my parents. My mom loves ornaments, etc. My sister and I were always scrapbooking. So unfortunately, I've never really learned to be uncluttered. If anything, I've learned to be very sentimental over things, which is nice in some ways, but does complicate getting rid of things.
Mm.
Then we were brought up to not waste anything. So we kept envelopes to use as drawing paper, scraps of material for patching holes in clothes or using for rags. The one positive thing in the past was window shopping on Sundays when the shops were shut and we just gaze at things we liked rather than purchasing.
So it sounds like
The
you
the
grew
good
up
old days when window shopping was
was possible,
really you could really just window shop. Yeah.
right? And now everybody's open all the time and it doesn't matter. So it really sounds like you grew up in a frugal household where the no waste message was really strong. And it was a way your parents managed your finances too. So they got the most out of their earnings for the family. It worked and they provided for you and your sister. And now you're an adult and you're in charge of yourself and in charge of your own finances. And you can decide how to allocate your funds. It doesn't have to be the same story of frugality and saving everything for art supplies. Now you can create different filters and patterns for what stays in your house and what can be released, what's worth buying, what can wait to be bought, and what can be sourced when you need it versus collected whenever it appears, regardless of whether you need it or not. I think we learn things from our parents and then we sort of don't ever revisit them. We live by the things that they taught or the way that they had us experience life, what was going on for them. Maybe they didn't have a lot of money when you were young and it was a struggle, or maybe that was just their nature that they were super careful and frugal with money. And so they, gave out that message. And when you become an adult, you can refilter those patterns and ask yourself, does this work for me now? And do I want to live exactly the same way that my parents did? And if the answer is no, it doesn't work for you now. No, you don't want to do it exactly the way that they did it. You can stop and rethink. Yeah, they gave you a message, but think about when they gave it to you. They imprinted it on you when you were a little kid. And so it feels super important and true, and it feels very inviolate. You can't possibly not do what your parents said. It's like
Right.
that was just, but the truth is, when you were little, it seemed really valuable because it was coming from your parent. It just had the weight of my mom said this, my dad said this. It doesn't make it gospel or the be all end all or the perfect solution forever for what's going on. And so if you're in a different place in your life than they were when you were kids, then you can change the parameters. You can do it differently. And I think making space for that and evaluating, I know this is the message that my parents gave me, but does that message help me now or work for me now? It worked when we were kids. It worked for their life circumstances when it happened and when you learned it. What's true for you now? And you can shift. And yes, upbringing is so ingrained. Adulting is challenging. It's
Okay,
true.
I want to hit a couple more before we move on to the next question.
Okay.
Kit said, Kit summarized some learnings. Don't keep everything indefinitely. Stuff should leave, even if it's good stuff. And don't buy for a wide selection of options in every category. Choosing favorites is more functional.
Kit. Excellent. Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. That was like every one of those statements. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Everyone that you read. Perfect. You have a great command of excellent habits to help you control clutter. Those are great habits. Don't keep everything indefinitely. Stuff should leave, even if it's good. Don't buy a wide selection of options in every category. And the one that jumps to my mind is grocery shopping. People always think they have to have 47 options every time they go to the grocery store. It's like, no, this week you can have option A, and next week when you go to the grocery store, you can buy option B. You do not have to have all of the options simultaneously. You can still have a variety in your life and not stock all of them every week, all the time. And the same is true for the other stuff in your house, not just the food in the fridge. So good job thinking, summarizing really short sentences of choosing favorites is more functional than buying a wide selection of options for every category. That's like very, I mean, you're being very wise, Kit. I'm proud of you.
Okay, last one on this question. An anonymous respondent said, past self saw things in terms of storage rather than the objects within. Storage equals good allowed me to ignore an excess of possessions equals bad. It genuinely didn't occur to me to try and consciously reduce what I owned apart from the turnover generated by fashion changes and the changing needs of children. Seems odd to look back on it.
I believe that we all start where you described. We start organizing, thinking we just need to better store what we have, and that's the solution. If we just add the right furniture, or cabinet, or bookshelf, or container, it'll work better. But containing it also takes up space. The cabinet or the bin takes up space too, just like the stuff does. Sometimes it takes a while to realize that capturing stuff better helps a little, but it's not the total solution to the problem of an overstuffed home. You really do have to regulate your flow of things, both incoming and outgoing. If more comes in than goes out, you'll be creating a backwater tide pool of things clogging your space. And stuff removal is the only way to get the water flowing again. I'm so glad that you figured that out. I think a lot of people are surprised when I say, if you don't want stuff to build up in the house, the volume of things that come in have to be matched by the volume of things going out, or you're net adding all the time. And so some people do that by they let stuff come in, come in, come in, come in, come in. Then they do a huge decluttering project and they take a whole bunch of stuff out at once. And it's easier if as things come in, you also are constantly letting things come out at the same rate. It's easier on your body, it's easier on your mind. But either way works. And she's right. You got to let stuff go. You got to let stuff go.
Okay, well, thanks again to Gabriella for the question that set
Mm.
off this topic of, what we can learn from our less cluttered pasts or even our more cluttered pasts.
Right?
Let's go on to the next survey question and a new topic, which came from M, who asked us to talk about clutter on the go. M writes, what are some guidelines for staying organized and decluttered when traveling? Is it better to unpack the bags completely in the room or live out of them so that nothing gets lost? What are some ways to spot what items are going to be in the way the entire trip? What about packing the car to minimize hassle? What goes inside and what goes in the trunk or on the roof? So we turned this into a survey question as well. We asked our viewers and listeners, when you travel, do you prefer to unpack your bags completely in the hotel room or to live out of them so that nothing gets misplaced? What do you consider the pros and cons of either approach? I'm going to just rattle through some of these and then let Gayle let you react
Comment.
in total if you'd like, or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
stop me at any point if you want to jump in.
Okay.
The mag says, when on a cruise, we unpack all of our bags on the first day when we get to our room. When traveling on land, we live out of our suitcases versus unpacking everything every day.
Mm.
This was so I think it's a very simple little question, but it's also an it also gives some insight into people, into what people are thinking about. And the question of, how long am I going to be traveling? It's sort of a microcosm of the decluttering and managing, organizing question in whole.
Right,
Um,
right, right. I see what you're saying.
Donetta says it depends on the length of stay. I unpack almost nothing for a one-night hotel stay so that leaving is easy in the morning, but unpack progressively more with each additional day in one place. I can do laundry, repack outfits, check the snack box, and reorganize my suitcase or backpack during longer hotel stays. Kara says, I prefer to unpack completely. Usually I feel like a regular person when things are put away. However, sometimes I leave things behind if they're in a drawer. And that was a concern several people expressed.
Yeah, that popped up a lot.
Yeah, Kim said, I unpack completely so I can see what I have. I have sometimes left things behind in hotel rooms. My bad, working on that. Uh, so more and more along those lines. Let's see. I feel like there was at least one more I wanted to be sure to quote. Yvonne says, I unpack my toiletries and my hanging garments. Everything else stays in my suitcase. I don't like feeling like I might forget something if I take too many things out and spread them around. Linda says, I prefer an unpack all the way. Pro, clothing airs out and maybe less wrinkled and everything is out to sea. Con, something could be left when packing up. I like this one too. Melanie says, I unpack completely as it makes the room my own and helps me to ground in my new experience.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I
Gail,
can
why
see
don't
how
you give
she.
us your take on some of these
Sure, sure, sure. So here's my commentary in response to M's question. If it's a day or two, I would say stay in the suitcase, except for clothes that you want to hang out and repair the wrinkles before wearing them. If it's more than 2 days, unpack, but in only a couple of places. So take your toiletries to the bathroom, use one or two drawers, but not all of them. Sometimes there's a cabinet and there's 4 or 5 drawers. Like you don't have to open up into all the drawers, just use a couple of them. Shoes go below the hanging clothes. And you can hang clothes in the closet and then put the shoes below that. So manage your jewelry, your makeup, your work support materials if it's a work trip, and put all that stuff on the desk. Don't try to spread to every surface in the room. Just pick one and stick with it. That's the best way to not leave things behind. You're not at home, so you are familiar with all the places that things can be stashed, and you'll forget the charger that's in the corner if you don't have it next to something else. So aim for using the least amount of surfaces in the hotel, and don't forget that you can use the suitcases as one of the surfaces too. You can't forget what's already in the suitcase. So M also mentioned car travel. And I'd say about traveling in the car, keep your suitcases in the trunk or in the back, in the back of an SUV. Keep a small bag of essentials inside the car, just like you would take on a plane, a carry-on piece of luggage with some stuff that you need pretty frequently. And if you need to put things in the roof, then let it be the things that you definitely won't use until you arrive. So the sports gear, your skis and accessories, the camping equipment, that kind of stuff. If you're, making a trip to go somewhere, the things that need to be in that, rooftop clamshell thing on the top or whatever you strap down to the roof should be things that you don't have to take down on the trip. And as you travel, I mean, that part of the trip. And so think of that roof container as the dry dock of the travel and stick it up there so that it won't come out until the very end. What you need in a hotel is the suitcase worthy. So if you're going to have to get out, spend the night, go in a hotel as you travel, then what you're going to need in the hotel to function needs to be in your suitcases so that it can be rolled in. And what you need at the destination goes in the top. And I would also say this reminds me. Remember when we did Thanksgiving in Galveston, Ed?
Oh yeah.
There was that season he was cooking, they were having, Thanksgiving down there. And so he laughed about how because he was taking a car, he could take more stuff. And so he transported half his kitchen basically in the car and brought it all to Galveston. And I don't even think you pulled it all out of the car, did you?
Oh, probably not.
Right. Like it
Yeah.
was just he just went a little banana fanas because it was like, well, it's in the car and it doesn't matter. And so he just kept putting more things down in the car. And then when we got there, he had way more than he needed. He was a well-equipped chef by the time he got down to Galveston. The food was great. We had a lovely time, but it was funny how much he just was like, yeah, it can fit in the car. I'll just take it. So he brought a lot of things that time. And, if you're, my point of that is, if you're having to stuff stuff in the clamshell on the roof of the car, you may want to rethink how much you're packing and decide if you're really just using it because you have the space and maybe you don't actually need to put something on the roof of the car. Just a little extra, before you open that clamshell, stop and ask yourself, do I really need to take all this stuff?
Yeah.
And there may be reason there is, hiking and camping and, we're going to the beach house and we're going to the ski chalet and whatever. And, there may be reasons why you're taking all that stuff, but I would think about it before, before you go there.
Kat says, do opposite of a purse. Make sure whatever luggage you take is bigger than the amount you pack, because inevitably you return with more, and
Mm.
somehow the things never fit back in the same. It's crazy.
It is true. I have a hard time recreating the packing. Like it works on the outflying trip and it doesn't quite work the same on the coming home trip. Totally get that.
We didn't really mention it. I don't know if we read any comments that mentioned packing lists, but I think packing lists
Oh.
are a great idea. And I'm not sure you'd ever said that suggestion before about pick one surface to spread out on and leave
Yeah,
it at
just
that.
pick one.
That's
Yeah.
a that's a great solution.
Because then it's like whatever it is, it's on the top of the desk. Most
Right,
most hotel rooms now have some kind of desk surface in the room.
right.
And so you can just, everything that needs to come out that isn't going on your body can go onto that one surface and stay there. And then, you'll be sweeping it all off the desk, but you'll retrieve it all again.
Okay. Anything else about travel before we move on to the
No, I hope you have fun. I hope you get to travel. I hope you don't overburden yourself. And I will challenge you, like the idea that you're going to bring more stuff home. Like we need to like ask yourself, how can I remember this trip without buying a bunch of stuff?
Oh,
Maybe
one
we don't
more.
need to bring anything home.
Um, I will share one more comment. CJ says, based on experience, don't overpack the car. We
Mm.
drove internationally across the border and then totaled our car. It was a real
No.
pain trying to get back home by plane with all that stuff.
Oh my gosh, what a drama for you. That must have been so hard. Oh my
Oof.
gosh. Well, and and I want to circle back. Sorry, and yes, you're right. And I also want to say, those packing lists, don't be intimidated by the idea of you have to make a packing list because you can Google travel packing lists and come up with a million free options. And so you don't even have to work hard. You don't have to make it from scratch. You can pull a straight off the internet a list and you can scratch out things that don't apply to you. You can add the few things that you think aren't on the list that do apply to you, but you can adapt and modify an existing list and it'll be, super easy. So don't make yourself crazy and packing lists are great.
Okay, our last question and topic came from audience member Peggy, who asked, are many of us naturally doing capsule wardrobes? We put that in quotation marks. I know that I keep reaching for the same 4 or 5 items over and over again for a while. Then I will switch it up and be using another small selection of clothes. That is unintentional on my part. So we asked our audience to chime in and please select whichever of the following statements best describes your current wardrobe. The leading answer at 40% was, I don't have a capsule wardrobe per se, but I own fewer than 100 items of clothing and wear all or most of them.
That was a surprise to me.
I'm in that category. I'm wondering, I maybe should have had a follow-up question about was, did the pandemic change things for you? Because I'm
Mm.
sort of wondering how many people downshifted to a smaller wardrobe and never went back.
Right, they didn't have to go into the office for a while.
The second most popular answer was, I wear a relatively small number of items of clothing on a regular basis, but also possess many items of clothing that I don't wear much. That was 37%.
I thought that one was going to be the more popular one. I was quite stunned that the other one won. That
And then
surprised me.
In third place was I own a large wardrobe and wear a great variety of clothing on a regular basis at 14%,
Those are our fashionistas. That's the fashionista
right?
category
Our
that finds, dressing in a variety of things entertaining and fun.
and then other came in at 9%.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
no, as of the time I was preparing yesterday afternoon, I haven't checked back to see whether anybody answered differently. Let's see. But as of yesterday afternoon, not one person said they had an actual. No, that's still true. Not one respondent has what they consider a formal,
A deliberately made.
deliberately encapsulated wardrobe.
Gotcha.
We got no
Okay.
responses that way.
Nobody's worked that hard.
Yeah, so for those who answered other, we asked them to elaborate if they wished. Dawn said, "I'm trying to get down to a little more than capsule.
Mm.
I'm in a transition of seeing which clothes I need to give away yet after losing 35 plus pounds. I'm down to going through some tops and pants. I had the realization in the last week that I don't need to fill my closet because I previously had a lot of clothes I didn't wear on a regular basis just hanging there. For now, I'm stopping on major pieces."
So that sounds like you're merging your two projects there. You're losing weight and decluttering clothes in the closet. You absolutely don't need to fill your closet, you're right, or replace all the pieces that you had before. So you're focusing on the major pieces to start. And as you adjust to the change in weight, it sounds like it's an excellent plan for both projects. You're only worrying on the major, so you have the basic things that you need to wear in the right size. And in the meantime, you're working your way through the other clothes and thinning them out because you're not going to wear them anymore. They don't fit. And so good job. Nice that you're dovetailing those two projects together.
Anonymous sort of rejected the premise a little bit. An anonymous respondent said, "I don't have a capsule wardrobe, and since I have about 15 pairs of panties and same or more for socks, and I wear all of these socks and panties, well, I'm over 100 items. 4 seasons here, including mud, rain, snow, freezing and windy, warm, hot and humid, camping, exercise, travel. Did I miss anything? No clothes clutter except for a little to repair and get special cleaning."
All right. Well, good for you. It
Well,
sounds like you're wearing your stuff.
and I picked that number. I just, picked that number of 100 items arbitrarily. I mean, the capsule wardrobe plans out there that various people have suggested
Or
are
less than that.
30, yeah, 33 items, 50 items. I've seen, oh, I can't remember now who it was, but someone who had, you know, 6 categories of 12 items each, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
for capsule wardrobes. But yeah, I recognize that Gail and I living in the mild South do not have to have as many clothes as some of our northern audience members.
Right.
Jacqueline says, "I have a decent amount of clothes and I try not to keep anything that I don't wear. I do wear uniforms to work, so many days I go directly from PJs to work uniforms back to PJs, so I don't get to wear a lot of my clothes as much as I would like."
That's the uniform life, right? You have to go on vacation to wear your regular clothes. Before the uniform job, you have so many clothes that you have to manage, and then you start with a uniform, and suddenly you have a lot less days of regular clothes to cover. Whether your uniform life is permanent or temporary, based on your career. So lots of professions get promoted out of the uniform versions of their jobs when they go to a management level, and then they're wearing street clothes again. Office jobs require fancier wardrobes. Other professionals wear a uniform, like medical people, emergency services, repair, maintenance work. So there are less days of the week to wear regular stuff. And frankly, if office people are smart, they create their own office uniform so they have less decisions to make to start their day. So there's been some very famous stories about really successful people that wore the same thing all the time that were, successful executives because they were not wasting any time making a decision about clothing. And so they would wear one person always wore a black turtleneck, one person always wore a white shirt and some kind of jacket or something. Like it was just they made a standard uniform even as a corporate person in order to keep their decision making down and their wardrobe small. And so, yeah, it's uniforms make it easier. I wear a uniform, in that I wear scrubs when I go work with people, and so my basic thing to wear every day is a scrub top and blue jean shorts, and that works about 10 months out of the year. And then um, the other 2 months when it's cold, then I end up wearing scrub pants or blue jean pants. And so I wear those, 5 days a week. And then I come home and have the clothes that I wear at the house. And so I put clothes on to get on the camera every week. I wear my variety of tops to be on the camera, but otherwise I don't have to wear regular clothes but a few days a week. So yeah, there you go. I totally get it. It makes my life easier.
Linda says, since retiring, I've adopted a half uniform, which applies to the bottom half of me. I wear black from the waist down and then a smaller selection of tops for the occasion or season. This works very well for me at this phase of life.
There you go. It's easy to manage, it's easy to wash. I get it. Totally worth it. Oh,
I do not miss having to put a tie on.
I know,
I
right?
haven't had to put a tie on
For a long
since
time,
about 1999, and
right?
I don't
Because
miss it.
once you started working at your house in
Yeah,
the Heights, you probably
yeah.
didn't have to wear suits
No.
anymore, right?
I never wore suits. The most I wore was, sports
Oh, a
coats.
shirt and tie,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's
There you
fortunate
go.
that way.
Your dad wore suits, right? Because he was a professor.
Yeah.
He got dressed
Yeah,
up every day.
and university administrator and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. Um, let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
next week.
Okay.
Get the right thing in front of me here. We are going to be back next week at the usual time, and we're going to talk about gratitude. We did a show on gratitude right before Thanksgiving last year and did a survey and got some really wonderful answers. And so we're going to repeat that, probably an updated version of that of last year's survey, and talk about what people are grateful for and what's changed over the last year. So that's November 11th. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks at the usual time, and we're going to talk about preparing for illness or disability. And we haven't picked one yet for November 25th, but watch your email for that. Let's go to the Weekly Tittle. Before you read the Weekly Tittle, Gayle, I want to read a comment that we didn't share that came from the surveys.
Okay.
This was Dawn answering questions 1 and 2 um, about lessons from the past. Dawn says, my home is less cluttered now. Moving to a condo from a home a little over 6 years ago, I needed to seriously declutter due to not having a basement and asking the question, what do I need to bring to the condo, knowing that storage in the one-car garage was going to be limited,
Mm,
i.e., not wanting to store things there which would suffer damage from that environment. So what I'm doing now to declutter what remains is, 1, watch what I bring in. 2, declutter and refresh one area at a time. 3, find concentrated items where I can make a lot of headway. For example, a few weeks ago, I spent 12 hours in 2 days, mostly in my office.
mm.
And 4, encouraging myself with the fact I will get there, especially because everything counts.
Yes, it does. Everything does count.
So
So,
what Dawn did there, Dawn basically encapsulated 4 lessons she's learned and turned into a sort of I mean, I'd almost describe that as a vision statement or
an
a
operating
manifesto.
plan.
Yeah. So why don't you give us the title?
Okay, this week's weekly title is Lessons to Keep. This week's assignment is to reflect on what you've learned from your decluttering journey as fuel to maintain your commitment to your ongoing projects. Reflects on the lessons that you've learned through the course of your decluttering work or that other members of our community have shared with us. And then jot down 3 or 4 statements or affirmations that you'll use to guide the work that still remains. As an example, here are Dawn's statements, slightly paraphrased. Thank you for letting us manipulate them a little bit, Dawn. Sorry. I will pay attention to what I bring into my home. I will declutter and refresh one area at a time. I will schedule concentrated times to make headway on specific larger projects. I will encourage myself with constant reminders that I'm moving steadily forward towards my goals. post your list of statements where you can read it each time you're setting out to work on decluttering projects and organizing projects. So we're just saying create yourself some statements of what you're willing to do, what you're going to do, and then give yourself that list available to be seen somewhere so you can look at it and think about it while you work, or help you remember to go to work. That too. So see if you can make a list for us and then come back and tell us about it. We'd love to hear about it.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook, or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe.
Subscribe.
We love to hear from you, so please keep your questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through the website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
I'm going to remind everybody that you can go to the YouTube channel, cfhou.com/YouTube, and you can subscribe there so that you get notifications when the video goes up. That's the best way to know when Ed finally posts the video onto YouTube. You can get a little reminder, hey, YouTube says there's something new for you. So go subscribe. And it will also help, I think, if we add subscribers to the population, then I think we end up being offered as a alternative video to other audiences or watching similar material. So
Yeah,
I would appreciate that if you would go and do that. That'd be awesome.
please share us around.
Please share us around. We love to grow the audience and we want more people to join our collection and party with us over here. So all right, you guys, lovely to talk to you. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.